Welcome to the Basketball Exchange, where the game never stops and the conversation goes deeper than the box score. Welcome back, guys, once again. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button for me. Appreciate the love, appreciate the support. Also, if you haven't done so, please go follow our Substack at the Basketball Exchange is the handle. We are writing articles throughout the week covering the WNBA and just different things that are going on in the world of women's basketball, the business side and the court side. So please go subscribe to our Substack as well. All right, a few things wanted to touch on that happened over the weekend and a few things that have happened just in the last 24 hours that we wanted to chop it up about. First things first, our player of the week is none other than Kelsey Plum from the Los Angeles Sparks. Kelsey's been on a heater. So far, I would say if I had a vote, I don't have a vote. Kelsey would be my MVP. And record aside, she's been the best player in the WNBA this year. I don't know what has gotten into KP, but she's on a different level. And that's saying a lot considering all of her accomplishments. I mean, she's been an all-star in this league, obviously a champion multiple times in this league, was a part of a great cast of players in in Las Vegas for years, and made the decision to ask out last year and say, "Hey, look, I need to get my own team. I need to spread my wings. I'm the third option on this team, and I know that I'm capable of being a number one," which is very gutsy, and a lot of people question KP wanting to leave Vegas and be traded. And she specifically wanted to go to the LA market and be a part of the Sparks organization, an organization, transparently speaking, that needed a little bit of a lift, needed a little bit of life pumped into it. As a Sparks fan myself, I was excited to see her come. Obviously, last year she played great individually, but we didn't really have the players and the personnel to be a team that could compete for a playoff spot, but it was no fault of Kelsey. She came in, was a leader that we needed. That team last year was fairly young, and she was the vet, and I thought she did a phenomenal job. And this year, the results and the win column haven't necessarily been there for the Sparks, although they've won two straight. I don't know if they're turning a corner. I hope they are. I wasn't a big fan of some of the moves that the organization decided to make in terms of kind of going for a win now approach and bringing in some veterans like Ariel Atkins and losing out on some young up and coming talent like Rakia Jackson, who, they were traded for one another. Rakia obviously in Chicago, and we wish her prayers and well wishes because she is out for the season with a torn ACL, which is devastating for her because she was having a phenomenal season. But Ariel Atkins, although she's a consummate pro and a champion within her own right, is a little bit of an older player. And of course, Nneka Bumake, who is one of my favorite Sparks ever, a phenomenal player. And let's give her flowers for, being a top five player all time in this league in scoring, passing the great Tamika Catchings. So she's now a top five all time. And and Nneka has had an incredible career, former MVP, champion in this league, multi, time All-Star, just a consummate pro, and a leader, not necessarily just on the court. NECA has been, you know, at the forefront of the fight for the CBA negotiations for some time now, being the president and the face of the players' organization. She's done a phenomenal job off the court as well. But NECA is a bit of an older player, and the Sparks obviously were looking to mix in youth and vets for a win now approach. That has not proven to be successful necessarily so far. I believe that this organization needs to have more of a focus on developing the young talent. Cameron Brink had her best game this season. Coincidentally, it was when NECA was out of the starting lineup and Cam finally got to start because she's been coming off the bench the entirety of the season, and she showed out. Now, in fairness, Cam is going to have to do a better job in staying out of foul trouble. She is a great defender, but because of that defensive prowess, she finds herself in foul trouble a lot of the times. And so that has limited her time on the court. And the coach Roberts has been very clear that hey, when Cam gets in the game, Cam needs to produce. So I think that electing to get players in place to win now. I don't particularly agree with that decision, but it is what it is. I'm a fan, so I'm rocking out. I told you guys on the last pod I had some thoughts about the Sparks. Wasn't really happy with them. My rankings, kind of reflect how I feel about them thus far. But it's still very early on in the season. If KP continues to play at this level, they definitely will have a puncher's chance of making the playoffs. But the top part of this league is so exceptional. Everything else is just kind of okay. And we'll talk a little bit more about who I feel the top teams are in spite of record, just what I see and what I've seen so far. But had to show some love to Kelsey Plum, aka Plum Dog, for being on a heater, doing a phenomenal job, and just going out and giving the Sparks a chance night in and night out. So wanted to kind of speak on that. Also wanted to send prayers to Jackie Young. Um, Jackie hasn't quite been herself this season, and she's had a couple of games thus far where she's actually had 0 points. Her shot really hasn't been falling, but her defense has been there. She's been great in terms of playmaking. But we just wanted to send some prayers to Jackie because we know the player that she can be. We know how phenomenal she is. She's dealing with some personal issues off the court, grieving the loss of a loved one. We don't have more details on that, but honestly, it's not our business. Playing or working or whatever you do for a living while grieving can be incredibly difficult. So we just want to send some love to Jackie. In spite of her not necessarily being her full self, the Aces still look really good. They are 4-2, and it just speaks to the depth that they have. We talked a lot about Kennedy Carter last week. Um, I imagine we'll talk about Kennedy Carter every week as long as she continues to play at this level. But we're really hoping that Jackie can find some joy in being on the court and being around her teammates, wishing her nothing but love. And that should be scary for the rest of the league. The fact that the Aces are not necessarily clicking on all cylinders as of yet. I don't know if Tailbot stays in that starting lineup. I'm gonna leave that to the great Becky Hammond. She has multiple rings on her finger for a reason. She's one of the best coaches in this league, and I know she will do what needs to be done. But so far, the Aces still look extremely scary. Asia Wilson is still Asia Wilson, and honestly, they're operating like a well-oiled machine. The bench has been really, really good so far. So the Aces to me are still the standard. I know a lot of people are looking at some other teams. We'll talk more about the Dream and a few other teams later, but yeah, the Aces are going to be a tough out. So, panic meter, a team that I put in the playoffs, was a prediction of mine that in spite of them losing a couple of players in free agency, that they still were going to be able to find a way to make the playoffs. And I'm officially nervous. And I think that this team is time to hit the panic button. And that's for the Phoenix Mercury. The Mercury just don't quite look the same. And a lot of the issues have obviously been consistency, but on the defensive side, they just don't look like themselves. And that's just not something I expected for a team that has Alyssa Thomas. Like AT is one of the most fierce competitors and defenders in this league. She's the leader of the team. She's the anchor on defense. And she spoke, in depth about her frustrations in terms of how the team has looked thus far this year, and they fallen in the stands. They put it on the Aces. They did not care one bit about the Aces getting that ring. I mean, matter of fact, it looked like they were upset that they had to watch them get those rings after they beat them, in the finals last year. So it's like, oh, okay, WNBA. So not only, you know what I'm saying, did we lose the championship, y'all gonna schedule our first game to be in Las Vegas. We gotta be in here and watch them get the rings that we wish we had, right? And they spanked the Aces. I mean, that game was over honestly in the first quarter, but they have not resembled that team since opening night. They have not looked anything like that. And it has me a little bit concerned. And I'll honestly tell you, I'm hitting the panic button officially for the Mercury. Not sure what can be done outside of just consistency. So we'll have to keep our eye on them to see if they improve and that they begin to kind of turn things around and position themselves to be back in the win column. So, as I stated earlier, I feel like the top of the W is so much better than the middle and the bottom. So, who are the top teams? All right. So, without looking at the standings, my top four teams: Las Vegas Aces, New York Liberty, Atlanta Dream, Indiana Fever. If these teams are healthy, I expect these to be the last four teams standing. I expect for these teams to battle it out and fight to get to the finals. From what I've seen thus far, I think that these teams, when they're healthy, everybody's playing at full strength, are heads and shoulders above the rest of the league. Now, the Liberty have not looked like the Liberty, but they're missing so many players. Phoebus has yet to play. Sabrina Ionescu has only played one game this season. Benijah Laney Hamilton is out for personal reasons. So Stewie and John Quell have been the two constants in terms of the starting lineup for this team. You don't know who's going to be there from one game to the next. So I'm inclined to believe with what I've seen thus far, with the pieces they do have, this team will be deep. This team has a lot of versatility, and this team has the potential to be exceptionally good on both ends of the court, which are all things you need in order to compete. So as long as Brianna Stewart is still breathing, the Liberty are a contender. As long as they don't have any, season ending injuries to their key players, the Liberty will be contenders. So they'll be fine. I'm giving them a pass. I know a lot of people have, you know, expressed some concerns, and understandably so. Again, they haven't looked great, but they're missing a ton of talent. So I still got them there. Atlanta Dream have probably been the most impressive team outside of the Aces thus far. And they, in fairness, also have not been 100% healthy. They're still missing Turner. Ryan Howard has been out a couple of games as well. So with all of their pieces 100% healthy, this team's going to be a tough out. I've been very impressed with them thus far on the defensive side of the ball, and that's where I think that they have the potential to dominate. I believe that they have the potential to also dominate on the glass from a rebounding standpoint. So I've been I've been incredibly impressed with the Dream so far. We'll have to obviously continue to watch them as they are matched up with some of the more elite teams in this league to see how they perform. But if Ryan Howard is healthy, this team is going to be in the conversation throughout the year as a top team. A team that I watched this weekend and was very impressed by in terms of them being able to overcome some things was the Indiana Fever. So a lot of chatter so far early in the season about Caitlin Clark and her three-point shot and it not necessarily going down consistently. Her struggles with her health. She missed a game with back injury. A little bit of controversy around the team reporting that in an accurate time frame. Just seems like there's always like something going on with the Fever. And as much as I love Caitlin Clark and as much as I know she's great for the league, it just seems like it's always something going on with them. So I'm hoping that she misses no more games this year. I hope she's 100% healthy for the sake of her fans, for the sake of the league. They are a major draw. We talked about this in our blog, to start the season. All of their games are televised. So people obviously want to see her, want to see them. I was impressed with them over the weekend. They were in a very contested, heated battle with the Golden State Valkyries. And there was a lot of chatter. There was a lot of, talking back and forth. And Caitlin Clark, she held her own. Um, my girl, Gabby Williams, was giving it to her at times. Tiff Hayes was guarding her, had that assignment. Tip was giving it to her. There's a couple of plays where Tip got the best of her. But there was a couple times, man, where Cece got the best of Tiffany, and they had a little heated exchange. But what I liked is that Caitlyn didn't back down. Yes, she backed up, We all seen the video. She was running her mouth, but she was backing up. Hey, she's not a dummy. She moved on out the way. She said what she had to say. But I watched that entire game, and Tiff was giving it to her as well. So, it's not like, Caitlyn just out of the blue started chirping. One thing about Caitlyn, she gonna back it up. And that's what I love. I love the competitive nature that exists in the WNBA. It's nothing like it. These girls are not friends unless they are wearing the same uniform. They'll hug and send a court after the game and text or whatever. But when they're on that court, it's fierce competitive nature from these ladies, and I absolutely love it. But Indiana showed me a little something, something because they was down and they were able to, climb out of that hole and they were able to take a commanding lead. They played decent defense. That's kind of where I'm looking at them. That's a Achilles heel. They are a well-oiled machine on the offensive side of the ball. Man, they move the ball well. Caitlin is one of the best passers in this league, a willing passer. She will find you. They have some incredible pieces. Kelsey Mitchell, obviously, Aaliyah Boston. I love the signing of Monique Billingsley, what we've seen from her so far, she's looked really good. Of course, they have, knockdown shooters and Lexi Hull, as well as Sophie Cunningham. So I love this team. I think they have the bench to get it done. I think if they're healthy, again, they're going to be a top 14. Defense is where they're going to have to improve. And I saw a little bit of that from them, a lot more effort being put in. Raven Johnson gave them some really good minutes. I think she's going to be a vital part, especially in terms of defense, in terms of the guards, and being able to come in and, when Caitlin is out of the game or Kelsey is out of the game, she does not slack at all defensively. And she came up with a couple of very big plays for them. I think that that type of defense is going to be needed for them when they're facing potentially like in Atlanta. You have Ryan and you have Alicia. Like those are going to be tough matchups with them. Or if they play the Aces and you got Chelsea and you got Jackie and you got Kennedy and you got Jewel, like it's going to get tough for them. So that's my question mark with Indiana. But toughness is not a question. They definitely have it. And again, really good games throughout the weekend, and definitely looking forward to a couple of matchups coming up this week. But we just wanted to touch base with you guys. As promised, we have some incredible podcast interviews coming up. I will be releasing all of that information on our social media. If you are not doing so already, follow us on TikTok at the Basketball Exchange, as well as Instagram, same handle. We love you. Bless you. Have a good week.